So I know usually during this segment, we do a weekly roundup of all the things Lady just ain't gonna do and the things that Lady loves. But this week, I want to focus on death, destruction, and devastation in Gaza. Y'all, to keep it 100, what are even the words that can describe the state of our world right now? Lady has been searching for the words, not because I'm unclear about where I stand on all this death and destruction, but more so because I've just had this feeling that there are some things underneath that I think we need to be paying attention to. And I've been spending time listening and watching and trying to articulate what it is that I'm seeing. First of all, to my Palestinian family, to my Muslim family, I see you. I love you. And even though we should not have to continue to do this, we do, because this is the world that we live in. We actually have to keep saying, I see you. You are worthy of your humanity. And no, I do not see you as a terrorist. And I will continue to reject that at every single level. To my Jewish family, I see you. I am so sorry that you are so scared right now. And I understand why you're so scared. There are still hostages who are in danger. There was over 1,500 people who were killed in these horrific attacks. And we should be able to say full-throatedly that this is not okay. It is awful, and it is beyond words. Now, human compassion should allow us to say both things. We are devastated by the loss of life, the killing, the murder, the terror, and all people should be able to live free of violence. All people, Palestinians, Muslims, Jews, Christians, Black people, trans people, all people should be able to live safe and dignified lives. There is a context to what is happening in Gaza. And while it's more than I can reasonably or skillfully address in this segment, I can share some resources on our socials to help you understand what's going on right now. But look, in sitting and listening and observing and learning, and no, not for the first time, but for years now, what I know is this: killing, more death, more destruction, more devastation does not, will not, and cannot make us safer. It will not return our loved ones. It will not guarantee that this never happens again. And that is what we want, right? To ensure that this never happens again. But killing more people will not solve this. Killing babies and grandmothers will not solve this. Thousands of innocent people are being punished and killed, and this is not okay. 8,000 people have been murdered by Israel since 1,500 people were murdered by Hamas, and none of that is okay. None of it. Absolutely none of it. I've been watching a lot of the dialogue online, and I have a ton of thoughts about what I'm seeing. And it's so interesting to me that our tendencies treat people as if they are sports teams that we root for or root against. In these moments, there are leaders out here who will tell you that you're either with us or against us. We remember that dynamic from 9/11 and the war on terror, where Muslims in this country and anybody who resembled Muslims were being rounded up and racially profiled and targeted by our country. I remember the devastation that followed, and that in many ways is still with us today. I am deeply concerned about this. And underneath all this stuff about you're either for Israel or you're for Palestine, all this stuff about you're either this or you're that, I'm really just curious, are we for or against democracy? Last week, there was a complete media blackout in Gaza that was instituted by the Israeli government, ostensibly to keep news from flowing out of Gaza into other parts of the world, particularly the United States. And it's happening in the United States too, y'all. I'm told by homies in the news industry here that they are being watched very, very closely. And they have been given topics and people and places that they are not to discuss if they'd like to keep their jobs. That's a real thing. I'm seeing people who are being forced to resign from their jobs merely for calling attention to the devastation that is happening in Gaza. And it's got me curious about how and why the U.S. government can be out here giving money to these kinds of operations where a nation shuts down the internet and communications. But then again, that would be on brand for the U.S. I'm also thinking a lot about how easy it has become to censor people and how some of us are cheering for that, just like that. I am caring for my loved one right now who has and is going to die of pancreatic cancer. And I'm thinking about my Palestinian loved ones who can't visit their loved ones in hospitals because their hospitals are being bombed. How I've seen photos of bloody shoes from children who are being bombed. I'm thinking about how I've been seeing some of you peddle in anti-Semitic tropes about Jews when you talk about why certain people in Hollywood or certain influencers aren't speaking out. And then you're saying that it's about the money and who controls it. Y'all, anti-Semitism is real, just like anti-Muslim racism is real. How about instead of us doing that weird-ass Jewish people run everything thing that y'all be doing, we do the thing that says, how can we fight back against censorship in what is supposed to be a democracy? What are the systems, for example, that allow for, media consolidation without regulation in this country? And how do we turn up on that instead of each other? Now listen, y'all, we have 100 people in our United States Congress right now who have expressed sympathies and allegiances to white nationalist values and priorities. They're attending white nationalist conferences and they're flashing white nationalist gang signs, and they're not getting shut down or censored. In fact, our news media plays it over and over and over again because it brings ratings, and they peddle in catastrophe instead of journalism that is supposed to give us the information we need to make decisions that are informed. So, I'm ringing the alarm here that this is really dangerous territory that we're in. And while what is happening in Gaza is like bringing it to the forefront, right? It was always lurking around the corner, y'all. And now the shit is about to turn a corner into fascism, and with a quickness. So let me ask, are we okay with that? And if so, why? How did we get here? And how do we keep from going any further? And speaking of, are we okay with this? Let's be clear. Hate crimes against Muslims have increased dramatically. Anti-Semitism has increased dramatically. And we have to ask ourselves, why? How did we get here? We have a moment and a movement in this country that has made us afraid of one another. We have a movement in this country that regularly and repeatedly sows division and peddles in misinformation, otherwise known as bald-faced lies. And this movement, they're not just assholes, they have power, judicial power and legislative power. So, when Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about Jewish space lasers, let's stop platforming her because it makes ratings. Those were the same people calling Obama a terrorist back then, relying on racist tropes that stewed division and hatred and distrust. When Donald Trump and the people who pledged their allegiance to him repeatedly, and I mean repeatedly, make horrible, horrific anti-Semitic statements and references, and when they then start covering their tracks by calling all Palestinians terrorists, let's stop acting like they're the exceptions to the rule or some fringe activists. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a congresswoman. Donald Trump is running for president again. They are the rule. That is their party. And it's the same party that now claims to be in solidarity with Jews who are aching terribly right now. They are doing what they always do. Prey on your fear, your anxiety, your anger, and then they tell you that the problem is liberals and trans people and black people and immigrants and now Muslims and Palestinians, not all of whom are Muslims, by the way. We've been here before, y'all, and this is an old playbook. But we can, and actually, for real, we have to decide that we're going to do it different this time. Our lives depend on it. You see, this is how evil works, and much more than evil, this is how power in this country works, and power around the world works right now. It has us pointing our fingers at each other and trying to take each other out rather than the people who benefit from our division. And the reason is that they want to keep their power. And they don't take kindly to change. I believe that we can learn how to be different, but it starts with us not falling for the same bait and switch that the powerful always do to provide a smokescreen that hides that what they're doing is on some bullshit. My friends, people are not their governments. Just ask the Palestinian partners. They haven't been able to vote for a new government since 2006. We can say hell no to terrorism, hell no to genocide, hell no to using violence as a tool to stop violence. And in the meantime, we can uphold each other's humanity and dignity and contend for real power. Power that's not corrosive, power that's not corrupt, but power that is interdependent. I believe in us, and I think this is our moment to show history and the future what we're made of. Free the hostages, stop the genocide, end terror against all people, free Palestine.